Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol.
And welcome to Cycle Sunday.
So yes, welcome back guys to Cycle Sunday. I am up here in Edinburgh at Criterium Cycles with my good mate Paul. You alright today, mate?
Epic.
Awesome. Now hopefully you've been tuning in every Sunday at 6 o'clock to trace my journey towards my ultimate dream road bike, and it has been a fascinating one so far. We started off right at the beginning looking at the type of frame I was going to have, sizing it correctly to me, then going through the torturous process of fitting it on the fit jig, choosing pedals, cleat systems, handlebar setup. In our last video we talked about the drive train, so the components around the crank and the gears and the oily bits and the brakes. But there is one thing left that we haven't talked about, and that is wheels and tyres. Now, interestingly, in the last video, you kind of talked about the priority ranking in terms of the really important things to go for. And you said priority number one is frame, and especially getting a frame that's the right size for you. Priority number two, however, you said was wheels. And even though the last video we did was the third priority, which was group set, wheels is number two. And I concur with that, because for me, when I go back to my very first road bike I bought, which was a relatively low budget aluminium frame road bike, I only had it about 6 months or so, and I got a friend of mine who's a big cyclist, and he had a spare set of wheels going, and he sold me them secondhand. And I remember the wheels cost him almost twice what my whole bike cost. And I can remember thinking, how on earth can these wheels be more than the bike? And I put them on the bike, and it utterly transformed it. It was unbelievable.
It makes such a difference. But you also hit on a really good point there. You bought the right bike based on a nice frame at your budget, and 6 months later you upgraded it. So whether you're doing it from the outset or whether you're doing it as an upgrade path to your current bike, it is something worth thinking about.
And it's a very complex area. Like all of these things, the thing I'm finding fascinating about this process is every step of the way there are decisions you have to make, and the information that you need to make those decisions, there's a lot of it, and there's a lot to disseminate, and there's a lot of truth, and there's a lot of myth, and there's a lot of kind of, old wives' tales almost that you need to kind of get to grips with.
You're right.
So when it comes to wheels, there's a lot to talk about. So we are, after this episode, we're going to be doing a podcast as usual where we go into the nitty-gritty, into the depths. We nerd out about wheels and tyres. But I guess let's start at the very basics, because things have moved on quite a bit since I bought my first bike, because the reason these two bikes are here, your bike's here, Paul. He just wanted his bike on it's really close to him, look. Although this one's quite nice too. The reason these are here is your wheel choice is heavily dictated by another choice that you make, and that is how you want the bike to stop, what braking system. Because you've now got a choice between the traditional rim brakes and disc brakes.
You do, albeit it's getting more a choice that's being made for you. Because the vast majority of manufacturers now, whilst certain manufacturers are offering the choice, very few are, and the route is going disc.
Because when I bought even when I bought my last road bike, which wasn't that long ago, it was a 2013 bike, disc brakes on road bikes really wasn't a thing. It was a mountain bike thing, but not a road bike thing. Now I guess one thing, if you're upgrading wheels on an existing bike, if you don't have an existing frame that can deal with discs, does that pretty much mean you can't do discs and you've got to go with calipers? Or is there a retrofit?
No, that's a brilliant question. If your bike has rim brakes on it currently, it's a rim brake bike.
Full stop.
The end. It's then your choice whether you want to invest in your rim brake bike or whether you go, okay, actually, am I now better taking that cash, putting it into a new disc brake
N+1
bike, N+1, or not, but that's your choice.
Yeah, okay. So it's not like you can, if you've got, and I guess same if you've bought a disc bike, and for some reason you wanted to go rim brake, that's not an option either.
Yeah.
So
they're not,
the frame you have, if you're upgrading anyway, the frame you have dictates the choice you make.
Yeah.
Now, the benefit from a ground up build is from the get-go we could make a decision as to which way we wanted to go.
Yeah.
And when we first started talking about the bike, I said to Paul, look, I really want to go disc. And I guess for me, a lot of that was an emotional thing. I think they look cool.
Yes.
Anyway, and I'm terrible at buying things because they look cool.
Yeah.
But what are the reasons why we seem to be going that way? Manufacturers are going that way. What are the drivers towards disc and moving away from the old caliper systems?
Yeah. So a lot of it is because, and it was fortunate on your bike that it was available as an option for the XR4 in a rim and a disc version. But ultimately, moving from a caliper onto a disc offers the engineers and the designers of the bike a number of freedoms that you don't have with a caliper system. So number one, by removing the caliper entirely, it affords more clearance
in this bit here
underneath the footbridge, and that allows for bigger tyre volumes. Whereas before, you'd have to move from a caliper to a cantilever or a V-style brake to give that tyre volume. Well, now you can see here we've got a caliper brake which is running a 25mm tyre, which is the width of the tyre, and here we've got an endurance road bike that's coming out of the box with a 32mm wide tyre.
Wow.
So we can run lower tyre pressures over sort of rougher road surfaces, which is common in the UK, is going to be less fatiguing for the squishy organic thing that sits on the top of it.
Right, okay.
So it affords more clearances. The other thing, and you can see it visibly here, look at the cable, or the lack of cables that you can see.
Yeah.
Because we're not having to run a cable down to the brake caliper, the brake hoses can run internally inside the frame, and it cleans up the entire front end of the bike. Whether if you just think of it from an aesthetic point of view, it just looks tidier.
Yeah.
But it also does offer aero performances as well. And the final thing is people are wanting to put higher spec wheels on. And the wonderful thing about a high spec wheel is a lot of them are made out of carbon fibre.
Yes.
And on my bike, every single time I pull that brake lever, my brake block is wearing away the best part of £1,000 worth of wheel at each end.
Yeah.
Whereas when you brake with a disc, you're basically wearing away a 40, 50, maybe £80 consumable
brake pad
and brake rotor. So you can go for a really nice set of wheels, and okay, if you're a lightweight, very confident and experienced rider, you may get 5, 6, 7 years out of a set of wheel rims. Brilliant. But if you're not, and you're on the brakes, you're not particularly confident.
Especially on the descending side of things.
On the descending side of things, if you're not particularly confident and you're on the brakes more, you can go through wheels relatively quickly.
I think the thing as well, if you do any riding in Europe, so I know when I first went to France and rode in the Pyrenees, in the UK, a long ascent or a long descent, you measure it in a few kilometres.
Absolutely.
Right, maybe 2 or 3 kilometres.
Yeah.
In France, in the Pyrenees, a long descent can be 25 kilometres. And they're steep and they're long and they're very fast. And if you're on the brakes all the time, even with a metal rimmed bike, you even run the risk of popping the tyre because you heat things up, and and if that's a carbon fibre rim, you're just losing bits of fibre out the back of the bike, right?
Yeah. I mean, I use terms that, every time you pull the brakes on from 70, 80 kilometres an hour down to a hairpin at 30 kilometres an hour, you might as well be reaching in your jersey pocket and pulling out tenors and just throwing them out into the wind.
Yeah. Horses for courses.
Horses for courses. Yeah.
So that's worth thinking about. And again, I'd always thought just about braking performance in the wet, but those are really interesting things to think about. Now, interestingly, on my Venge, I've got carbon fibre fairings, so deep rim wheels. Yeah. But the actual where the brake block, the rim is an aluminium rim, so it's metal on pad. So I don't have that problem.
Yes.
And that leads us to the next question, which is how deep the profile of the wheel is. Yeah. So we've got a couple of examples, haven't we, in terms of just to kind of demonstrate that. So should we look at the kind of shallower one, I guess, a bit like this, really?
Yes.
So do you want to grab, we've got a couple of rims off camera. Do you want to grab those two? And these are really, really nice wheels, by the way. I'll have these ones. Now, I always love the engineering of a wheel. I think they're very clever things, and wheelwrights are very clever people. Yeah. Now, both of these wheels, interestingly enough, because this is another subject we need to talk about, is the type of tyre and the type of inner tube or not. Yes. So both of these wheels are designed to be running tubeless tyres, so no inner tube. And if you were to look, it's very difficult to pick up on camera, but the profile inside here is designed for the tyre, a bit like a road tyre would mate to a wheel on and not have an inner tube.
Indeed.
Should we maybe put that subject to a bit later on in this video? The choice of tubes or tubeless. Yes. Because we could have a whole video on that as well.
Yeah.
So both of these, as it happens, are designed for tubeless.
Yes.
This is an aluminium framed wheel.
Yeah, so it's an alloy profile wheel.
Maybe obvious things, these are both disc wheels as well, aren't they?
They are.
And the obvious thing, there are three basic components to a wheel.
Yes. So we've got the hub, which sits in the middle. We've got the spoke and the spoke nipple.
Ooh.
And then we've also got the rim.
Yeah.
So those are the three fundamental components of a wheel. And as we discussed earlier,
in the previous video, it still holds true, that rule.
It still holds true. Quality, light, cheap, pick two. So the wheel that Peter's holding at the moment for a pair of wheels is at the upper end of alloy wheels.
Yes.
At around the £1,000 mark.
For two wheels. So about 500 quid.
For two wheels. The wheel that I'm holding here is a top-end carbon wheel, and a pair of these are £2,000.
So £1,000 a wheel. So that's twice the price of this.
Twice the price of that.
So apart from the obvious thing being this rim's made of carbon and this one is made of metal, so there's a weight difference. And I guess you could nerd out and talk about rotational dynamics and gyroscopic effects and all that.
All those things.
Join us on the podcast and we will geek out about that.
Yeah.
I guess there'd be differences in things like the bearings.
Yeah, so in the rim itself, you've got the beauty about carbon fibre is that you can mould it into an engineered shape. So we can focus more on an aero profile, and there's people a lot cleverer than I am who can really go into those. But even these wheel depths at just under 30 millimetres in depth, this wheel will take less effort to physically rotate because of its weight and aerodynamic properties. Yeah. But also the beauty about carbon fibre is the fact that it's got a natural vibration cancelling to it as well. Yeah. And that means that this wheel is going to transmit less harmonic vibration into the rider than an alloy wheel would do. So you've got those advantages. Yeah. The spokes get lighter and more aerodynamic, and the hub gets lighter, the bearings get higher quality. And one factor that a lot of people don't consider is hub engagement pickup. So from going from coast to starting to put the power through the pedal again, how fast it picks up.
Yeah.
A more expensive hub will have more engagement points, so will pick up faster.
Okay, so more responsive.
More responsive.
So these are beautiful.
Yes.
But on my bike,
Yes.
I see I've got a deeper rim section on my bike.
Yes.
And I purely bought that because it looked cool.
Yes.
There's a theme here.
Yes. Yes.
I had a very aero bike with
Yeah.
deep rim wheels. I just thought it looked cool.
Yes.
So over there we have a deep rim
Yes.
wheel.
Excellent.
Do you want to go on grab that?
Do you want to keep hold of that
Yes.
so we've got our
Okay, that's a good
comparison?
reference. Ooh. That's rather nice too.
Yes.
Now that's lovely.
Yeah. So we've also got the rotor fitted onto here as well. So you can visibly see, you know, this is the braking surface that your brake pads grip onto. And this is a 50mm deep section wheel.
Yeah.
And again, as we go deeper, the weight of the wheel slightly increases.
Yeah.
Because we've got more material. Mm-hmm. But the aerodynamic efficiency of the wheel also increases as well.
Yeah. And they look cool.
And they look cool.
So we're going deeper rim, and in fact, the wheels that are on your bike,
Yes.
you were saying, are pretty much the wheels that we're going to put on my bike, but we're getting the disc variant.
Indeed. It's going to look great. Whoa.
So what about tyres? So, I know. So,
It's a sticky subject.
oh God. You just can't stop him. He's been doing this all day. So very briefly on tyres, because the two fundamental choices are you have an inner tube and a tyre,
Yeah.
or you have a tubeless tyre.
Yes.
Now, I guess if you were a pro rider on the tour and you had a service vehicle behind you and you didn't have to worry about punctures and all that kind of stuff, tubeless is the way to go, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay. See, I knew there was more to it than that.
Tubed and tubeless is probably one of the biggest contentious issues in tyres that we have at this moment. And again, I think we should leave it to the podcast
Yeah.
to go into whether you go tubed or tubeless. Mm-hmm. In a nutshell, if we're on a bigger volume tyre running a lower tyre pressure,
Like this.
all the way up to a mountain bike,
Yeah.
no-brainer. Utter no-brainer, tubeless,
Really.
all the way. They're just wonderful. On a smaller volume tyre that's running a higher pressure, I'm a bit on the fence. My 25mm road tyre, I run tubes.
Yeah.
But I also have customers, friends on a 25, 28mm tyre who successfully run tubeless.
Okay, that's clear as mud.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so the big question then is what gear ratios am I having on my bike again?
Appropriate ones.
Okay. He still won't tell me, and it's a video later. So what are we going to do? So we've got the same wheels as your bike, but with the disc variant.
Yeah, very similar, yeah.
So what about tyres and...
Yeah, so whether we're going tubes or tubeless. The thing I always like to ask customers is where you live and where you ride. When was the last time on your road bike you had a puncture?
Now, interestingly here, and this might open up a can of worms,
Yeah.
I ride 23mm tyres on my Vens, so
Yeah.
very small tyres,
Yeah.
but I ride the endurance version.
Right.
So they are kind of super tough tyres, so I don't get many punctures.
Right.
But I bet they're heavy, aren't they?
Yeah. And it's, again, quite interesting, and we're opening up a whole new
where's that can of worms? There's around here somewhere.
Yeah. So a lot of people, when they get a puncture on their tyre, the first thing they go to is an armoured tyre.
Yeah.
One that they don't get punctures with.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah. It's quite interesting, the extra power you have to put into the pedals,
right,
to turn those tyres.
Really?
Yeah. It's quite significant. I don't want to put specific numbers on them, but we've heard quite a lot of extra watts to just physically turn those tyres.
And I'm not putting out Chris Froome watts.
No, we saw that on the trailer.
Oh, thanks. So you lose what?
Yeah, because
rolling resistance.
Yeah, so we can put a really nice set of $2,000 wheels on there, stick a set of armoured tyres on, and we might as well have not bothered.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to put a really nice pair of supple road tyres that are going to give a really nice ride performance. They're going to give a nice handling characteristic. Mm-hmm. Think of it like your car tyre. You know, if you put a set of economy tyres
or run flats
onto your car, it changes the handling characteristics and the performance of that car versus putting a really nice pair of, you don't have to say track bias, but performance-based tyres.
Yeah.
It changes the handling characteristics. It's the same on your bike.
Okay.
So we're going to put a really nice set of tyres on the bike. And I think because we're going 28 millimetres.
Okay, so we are.
Yeah, so we're going to go a bigger tyre volume.
Wow.
Because of your years of experience of driving and cycling, you won't be the kind of rider who looks at their front wheel.
No.
You'll be looking way ahead, so you won't be dropping into every pothole known to man. And I think we're going to go and try tubeless with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just have your number on speed dial for when I get a puncture. Paul!
Yes.
Oh, we're going tubeless.
Yeah, let's go tubeless.
Okay. There you go. Deep rim, disc, lots of carbon fibre, tubeless 28.
Ceramic bearings.
Oh, that's made my day. So we are very close now. So you now have all the information you need to build my bike.
We do. So
the next episode, we're going to be seeing the bike being put together.
Yes.
And then I can come and pick it up. Guys, now then, a couple of things you need to do. Clearly, you need to tune into the podcast because there's plenty of stuff that we need to talk about. Some of the details and just bounce stuff around, chew the cud on tyres, as it were. Don't forget, please like and share this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And I'll put Criterium Cycles details in the description below. Check out their website. They have a really great newsletter you can subscribe to. I'll put all their social channels on. Make sure you follow them on social. And most importantly, make sure that you tune in next Sunday at 6 o'clock to watch my bike being put together. I am so excited. I think it's taken a long time to get to the point where we now know and have answered all these questions. I hope you found it interesting and useful, and maybe when you're next thinking about your next bike, it's given you some things to think about. It's given you the thought process. I'll go on, it would be amazing if you came here and talked to Paul. That would be fantastic. But clearly, if you live in, Cornwall, that might not be the case, but there's nothing to stop that happening.
Watch this space, guys.
If we've been helpful and useful and given you some extra information and debunked some of the mass of stuff out there, then that's job done.
Yes.
But we'll see you on the next episode of Cycle Sunday. But anyway, guys, Make sure you ride safe.
Ride safe, guys.